Welcome everyone to Monday. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTraining.tv. All right, now it's happier. Okay, everyone give me a second here. We're having a, I probably lost Discord again. Let me do it again. And I tell you, when everything stops working, it's really aggravating because you get this all set. Okay, there we go. Let's try this. New FileMaker user, probably people will steer away from them, but people always would ask the question, yeah, hang on one second here. It's throwing up dialogues over here with me. There it goes. People always say, hey, isn't there a way of triggering a script when you're on your layout? When you're on a layout, for example, if you were, say, on an invoice, and once you complete the invoice, isn't there a way of deducting the items off the invoice through a script? For example, people always have the need to activate a script trigger. Frequently, historically, we would activate script triggers via a button. A button activates a script, and that was the number one, and we would hide buttons on screens and people would do things. And so now we have these ability to do these script triggers, and so the script triggers, once again, are divided into objects and to there's some record ones too, but really the idea is you can go in and out of records, and that has some ability. For example, you could be on a record, and based upon the kind of record it is, say for example, and I don't necessarily recommend this, say you're on, you have a database called contacts, and if the contact is a customer, it would show you one data entry screen, and if the contact is a vendor, it would show you a different data entry screen. My suggestion would be that you have two different tables for that, but you could put it in one table, data in one table, and then show people different layouts based upon the record. So on record load, is it a vendor? Is it a customer? Go to this layout, go to this other layout, right? And so there's a lot of use for script triggers. People tend to want to overuse them. You need to probably keep it a little simple when you do it. The other thing, there's a couple other things, of course, think about, and that is that script triggers have an execution operation. So as you interact with this interface, there's kind of a beginning, an intermediate, and an end of what it will do. And so script triggers have a very specific order of operation because, listen, if you're only using one script trigger, then you don't really care about the order of operation for the most part, because we're not going to run into each other. But if you have like an on object load and an on record load and on whatever load, you have to think about the order of those things, because otherwise you get unintended consequences. So what I want to do is show you this screenshot right here. So this is a screenshot. It's in our video training. Everything that we've done today is video training. We have in our video training. But what we want to do is make sure you can ask questions about this while we're doing it. And so the idea is that as you interact with your user interface, you have the first one. This is like, the idea is that every time you do something, like you're going to press a button or press a mouse key or whatever, this little cycle is going to run, basically. And so the idea is that on first window, is it already executed that? Okay, great. Then the next set of triggers it's going to run are the ones that are window related, right? On window move, on window resize, things like that. Then you'll have on layout, right? On layout, keystroke layout, on layout change or whatever it is. And then you have mode changes, you have view changes, but really the people get into, they will do object ones where you can click in a field and say you don't want anyone, like you're in a text field, and you don't want anyone to use the letter M, for example, right? Or it was like the thing that happened, I'm not getting into politics, but years ago when Bill Clinton left office, and then it was the next person came in, I think it was George W. Bush, and it was I don't know if it was a practical joke or whatever happened, but the people, as they left the White House, removed all the W's from the keys on the keyboard. So there was the first George Bush, then there was a son, George W. Bush. Everyone called him W. So the Clintons and their staff removed every W from every keyboard in the building. So they had to have all new keyboards got, because they took the W's and ripped them off out of the thing, so you couldn't put that down. Really kind of funny. And so the idea is that what if you wanted to, instead of ripping the key off the keyboard or duct taping or something, what if you wanted to intercept that? You couldn't put a W down. Well, that's what the on object keystroke is going to do. It allows you to see that there was a W pressed and intercept it and to cancel it. And so some of these, so the most common ones are this one right here, the object, and the layout one right here, and to a degree the record, like on record load you can check. On view, like, oh, I'm going to look at browse mode or view different modes like that. I guess you could do that. It depends, but all these are available. And so they execute in a sequence, right? So here's another one. So the mouse goes down, it's going to try to execute these. And then as it comes up, it's going to, it finds them and it runs them. And so the idea is that there is a specific order. So this is kind of a visualization of the order. This is also the order down here. If you look at this, it says what version it came out with. I don't particularly care about that, but this is the order of execution. And as important is whether it's a pre or post trigger, which means that it happens before the event or after the event. For example, let's say that we want something very simple to understand. We want to say on record load. So you're going to load a new record, which means you're flipping a record. You hit the record control and you're flipping the record, right? And that happens. Then this trigger will run after the record loads, not before it loads, but after it loads. And so that's important to understand, because you could say object keystroke. So you would apply the object keystroke to a field and say that you're going to do a practical joke. We're going to move all the W key, from the keyboard. Here it's going to say, you press a key, it's going to activate the script. Your script says, if the keystroke equals W, then what you do is you pass a script result back to it. You can approve it, or approve it to proceed, or cancel it. See, a pre-trigger allows you to cancel the action. A post one can't do that. It's already occurred. It's like, hey, this house already burned down. And then now we're going to launch a script. What do you want to do about it, right? Okay, tear it down, build a new house. A pre-keystroke says the house is about to burn down. Do you approve the house burning down, or do you want to cancel the house burning down, right? Makes sense. So pre and post. The post, it doesn't matter what you pass back in a script parameter. And script parameters, right, or script results are little messages that scripts can send back and forth between each other, right? It's a string that you can do that. So if you send a number 1 back, so if you have a pre-script trigger, we're going to intercept the letter W. It equals W. Oh, we don't want that. Okay, then you would pass back a script result of 0, a fail. 0 means, I guess, generally no, right? If you wanted to approve it, you would pass back nothing. No, this is really great, except it has to work on Mac, at least Mac 2, if not everything. And they went, well, it's a little bit more work to add it for Mac. We're not going to do it. And it's a shit ton more work to have it work on Windows, because we would have to code all this from scratch. And so they made a feature that only works on iOS devices. You can't even test it on the Mac. So it's just blech. So anyway, is there any restriction on script triggers based on device platform? Yeah, some script triggers work on platforms. Some of these script triggers are very intensive. Okay. So like lean design, right? So just pretend I'm Nick. It's mandatory that you think about using the right script trigger for the platform, or your lean design will be abomination. Okay, so that in plain English means don't just throw them in everywhere, especially intensive script triggers like on layout keystroke and on object keystroke are very intensive. Either they don't work or don't work very well with WebDirect, for example, right? So you need to be thoughtful about it and what you're doing and what you're trying to do. Like on object keystroke is great for Pro and Go. You could look it up and read about them. It doesn't really say it on here. I put the links in here. I mean, there's clearly to teach everyone about script triggers end to end to make you perfectly a ninja would take us about 7 or 8 hours to do intensive training all day today. So my goal is to answer the questions and kind of guide you in your learning process here. Oh yeah, so David, so on AV player change, I don't use it because I don't believe in just building an app that only works on iOS devices. It's bad enough that Claris doesn't have an Android solution. They haven't had an Android solution. Now they're thinking about doing an Android solution yet, kind of whatever, right? Who knows? But yeah, I don't like single platform, because then all the people, like at least half or more than half of the users that use FileMaker are on Windows, right? Now, Claris has done studies that says like 80% of the development is done on the Mac. So the Mac people tend to do most of the building of FileMaker files. If you're building FileMaker files and you're in a Windows platform, you're in the minority in that group. But in terms of users, a majority of the users I think are on Windows. So just keep that in mind. So when they do that, I really dislike that. So then I got Spit Fright from Discord, lame. I'm not sure what how does object validate a pre-trigger and not a post-trigger? So let's see, object validate. So what it does is before it runs the trigger, it's going to allow you to run a script, right? So in the sequence of events, okay, let's talk about this. If you're in a field, okay, and it's this process right here. So if you're in a field, right? So I'm going to click in a field, okay? If I press this, this is just start from like we're in there and we're clicked in here, right? Okay, so here we are, we're over here, we're clicking in there, okay, right? We see that. I'm going to back over here so you can see my waving my hands, right? So make myself a little bit bigger so we have the hand waving. So as I press my finger down, it's going to do on object keystroke, okay? And I'm not actually blinked in there. On object keystroke. That's what would fire, okay? And you can write a demo. We can demo some of these. It just gets elaborate. It puts a J in there. Now if I click out, the sequence of events is that FileMaker will attempt to validate the value. That's using the script level validation. I really dislike script level validations. That's in our FileMaker training, we call that old school. Claire's just asked me about the usefulness of testing on that on their new certification exam. I told them anyone who wants to do validation does it with script triggers, right? Because the validation that's built into FileMaker is very limited. It has limited controls. It's very 1990, okay? If you want to do validation, you do it with a script. So that's where you could do the validation or where you're clicking out, right? So it's this like sequence of clicking out. So it's going to run the validation. If it passes the validation, then it does this internal save in the memory, which we discussed the other day. I don't want to get too crazy with it, but basically a save, for most of our perspective, a save and a commit are kind of the same thing. It's where the data is locked in and it's pushed back to the server and written to the hard drive. There is a subtle difference between save and commit, but for a vast majority of everyone here, just assume that save and commit are the same things. And so as I click out, it's going to do the validate, then it does the save and the commit. So it allows us to intercept before the validation, right? But before, and so you could cancel that. And then, of course, you could run another script trigger. There's a number of these here. If we come back over here, there's a sequence. So on object enter is the sequence, then object keystroke. Then you modify the object. So modify the object is like, you've done a bunch of keystrokes, but if you tab out or click out, you'll fire the on-object modify, right? And then what would happen after that would be the on-object validate because the computer here realizes that you're going to leave the field, okay? And that's once again that's a post, right? And then, so the computer, FileMaker goes, here you're typing in the field, here you're trying to leave the field through some method. Here, FileMaker says before you really, so these are all the things that go into clicking in and then clicking out. And so the best way for you to learn this is to play with it. And we can play with some of it here if you have specific questions. So, hello, John Haggerty. How are you? Jay Dripper, Jack Dripper, checking in. Elzo, everyone. Yep, not a problem. Welcome late. How is object validate a pre-trigger, not a post? Yeah. So, Claris made the decision of where they wanted that to be, a pre or post. Sometimes you would wish it was in a different spot. But it was their decision making. How they came to that conclusion, you'd have to go back and talk to the people from FileMaker, about the FileMaker 10 days. That's about 10 years ago, thereabouts. Actually, 2009. They made the decision 2009, 2008, right around there is when that was made. So, this is an interception before FileMaker runs the validation. So you're saying, like, what validation are we talking about, right? The validation, if you're in field definitions and you say, here's this field right here, and I say, I come down here and I say options, and then you have this validation tab right here. So before it does this evaluation, it's going to trigger that script, okay? Makes sense? I think using these validation here is generally a really bad idea unless you have something really minimal, because this tends to be a giant pain in the ass. It's better to run it with a script where you have really great controls over it. So I would never, I mean, you could still say before validate. You don't have to have a validation here for for this other thing to trigger, right? I mean, you don't. I mean, I don't use this over here almost ever, but I can use the on validation wherever that my list went. Hello, where'd my list go? Hello, this list here. I would use this all the time. So this is, it says that before you do an object attempt to validate, if there is a validation specified, even if there's one not specified, this would still fire, right? And then you could tie that to a script, right? And then you could be doing your validation that way. So something would be kind of cool. How is object validate? Okay, that's the same question. Okay, David says, I can perform an on-object validate. Will it find the last character pressed? On-object validate. You can get, there's a get function that you want to run. It's the get, it's this get script trigger. Let's just go to FileMaker help, the best place to find this. So I'm going to close this dialog there. I'm going to go to FileMaker. We're going to go to FileMaker help. It's a get function. It's the current script trigger or the last script trigger or whatever it was. Well, there we go. So get, let me see. Actually, let me tell script trigger. Actually, you could probably type get. Get functions, get, let me just find on this layout here, trigger. Okay, there you go. Get trigger panel, external event, you don't have to worry about that. Get trigger gesture info, that's when you're on iOS and you're trying to trap that someone did a swipe and you initiate a trigger and you want to see how they swiped. Get trigger keystroke is what you want to do. Trigger keystroke. That's what you're looking for. And so you'd want to use that. Yeah, it's mad at me. Can't create it on the host for whatever reason. So let me hit create here on my Mac. It's because I've actually I've exceeded the number of files on the server because I'm only supposed to have 3 files on the server, and I have like basic level, right? So we could say we could write a script real quick. I'm going to zoom in. Just okay. This window is just, why are the windows so exponentially jumbo big? That's really obnoxious. Okay, so I'm going to create a, okay, I need the right pane too. There we go. Okay, so we have a script. We'll call it, let's see, on object. This is pretty educational here, so we'll just call it this. On, what did Nick always called them like this, right? This is what he did. He did a trigger or something like that, although you have to actually spell trigger correctly. Trigger, and then on object keystroke. The name is totally doesn't matter at all. And what we do is we could say show custom dialog, just give us some feedback. And I see people typing over here, but I'm going to try to finish this before I do that. I'm going to specify get trigger keystroke. Let's just see what that does for us. Okay, we'll just say okay on that. Okay, save. Okay, close that. I'm going to go here now. To activate it on an object, you're going to right-click on the object. Right-click with the mouse. I'm going to say set script triggers, and I'm going to say object keystroke right here. I can zoom in a little bit. So you got the various triggers right here. I'm just going to do the keystroke one because it's the simplest one for us to play with a little bit for right now. Hit OK. Hit browse. Okay. And so if I type in here, I type the letter A. Okay, good. If I type the letter B, good. Now, notice it's still going in there. We didn't cancel it, right? We did not cancel it. Very important. Did not cancel it. So, kind of fun. All right. You got a big conversation going here. So I could remove the dashes from a phone number prior to validating. Yeah, you just don't. So let's just say this is a phone number for those of you. Bob says, interesting scripts. There are not filters for particular to tell the developers what trigger does what. Well, it's in the help. If you want to dig through the help in here, I posted some. If you go back to the beginning of the Discord thread and also on Twitch, I posted some of the help areas. You could read through all that. I mean, understand there's like 20 whatever script triggers, right? And so if you want to learn about each one, once again, I mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, In an hour, I cannot teach you about every script trigger on every platform. It's not possible. Go buy the FileMaker video training that we do. We spend more time going through that and those section of videos. There's a whole section on script triggers. This is just a live training exercise where you can ask me live questions, but in 1 hour, I can't teach you to be a senior developer. It's a limit. Even senior developers, listen, senior engineers, we in the back of our minds, we know there are triggers that do all these things. We probably, any typical senior developer has used maybe half of these triggers, maybe 2/3 of them. If you ask him to recite all of it to you, he can't do it. They could tell you the order of operation generally pretty closely because they understand how it's an object level thing, and then it's a layout level thing and a record level thing and that kind of issue. They could tell you the order of operation generally, but for any fine detail, even a senior developer is going to have to reference the documentation. It's not all committed to memory. So let's go through the phone number example. So he wants to do a phone number. So let's say we're going to do a phone number, right? And I'm not saying this is the best way of doing this. What I'm going to do is I've got a phone number field right here. It's a text field, I believe. Text field, yes. And what you want to do is what you could do is I'm going to duplicate the script. I'm over here. I'm duplicating it. And I'm going to say this script is going to be called trigger phone number. Let's call it validation because really it's what we're doing is a validation. So if I want to do a phone number validation, I would do it with a script, okay? And so I come over here and I'm going to say if it's if, right, here, are you ready for this? If get trigger keystroke equals a dash, right? Say, once again, you could think of, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And what about this, right? It equals a dash. Then we're going to say exit, because we need to pass the message back to cancel, right? We want to pass that message back. Let me go over here. So I got my face over here, so I'm waving at you. You can't see me. You're going to want to pass back a 0 for a fail, okay? What you could do is then you could also say else if you wanted to do something else. So here you could either pass back a 1 or pass back nothing. So that means it'll work. Or you could pass back nothing and it would pass it anyway. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to go to layout mode, right click into the phone field. I'm going to say script triggers. I'm going to go on object keystroke. And I would say run this script right here. Okay. And remember this is a pre-trigger, so the 0 and the 1 will cause it to abort. So if we type a number here, hear that? Yeah, it's intercepting it, ignoring it, right? Now, we could have done other things useful because I'm only trapping, right? So, but this is the point of the demo. I'm not trying to create a phone filter today. Questions? So, Jake, how do we PSOS using a script trigger? Okay, so what you would do is you would is that you're going to call a script, and that script would call the PSOS, right? So say, for example, you want a PSOS to say that this evaluation was really complicated, right? So we had like the phone number evaluation was like super amazingly difficult to so we'll call it complicated phone. Now this is not on my server, but say we have the complicated phone, and we're going to come up with a script. So I'm going to come up with the scripts, and I'm going to say I'm just going to say duplicate. Where's my duplicate button? Duplicate. Zoom in a little bit. I'm going to call it phone validation, and maybe we'll PSOS it, right? So what you would want to do is now I've not tried this, but this should work. What you would do is you would say you still have this code, so like you have this script here, right? But this one right here is your PSOS one. So what you'd say is say perform script on server, right? This one right here. What you would do is you would pass to it the script parameter would be the get trigger keystroke. So that way the trigger keystroke is actually kind of loaded up into the request and fired off. That makes sense? So if I zoom out, we're going to make the request. I'm going to call that script there. And then I want to save. Yeah, so basically the idea is that this field right here, of course, it's not on the server, so it won't work, but he would say script triggers, right? And you would say on object modify, and you would say perform this script right here, right? Because you can't call it directly, you can't call the server one directly from here. You can only call a local one here. So you have to call the local one, and which is fine. And then the local one fires, and it goes, oh yeah, we want the server to handle it, but the server can't get the trigger itself, so we'd have to bundle up the trigger and pass it off, right? Does that make sense? So that's kind of how that would work. It's extra couple hurdles to jump through. I mean, listen, I don't know that I would tell the server to do this. I mean, this is an interesting intellectual exercise. I mean, you don't want the, listen, PSOS is faster for a lot of things. Evaluating on an on-keystroke trigger is not going to be faster. It'll be slower. Instead of your computer just evaluating it, something simple. Now, if you had like this big math formula, had to do a bunch of analysis and go out and do stuff, then yeah, the server could handle that. But something this simple, you don't want to handle that locally. You don't want to PSOS everything, right? I mean, that's the problem when we have a conversation with Nick and we're having kind of a senior conversation. Just because PSOS is useful, it's like I say, hey, you know, there's this, I don't have a hammer in here. Where's my tools at? You have a hammer, and Nick shows you this really great hammer. Then everything to you looks like a nail because you want to use it on everything, right? PSOS, you don't use it on everything. Use it on things where there's a lot of calculation. You don't want the client to do that, right? But simple things, this thing would run faster locally than it would on the server because the server, you have to send the request to the server. It has to spin up a virtual client and then do the work. It would be much slower. So the bunny is here. That's awesome. Script with this, right? You'd use a filter function. Remember, filter function is case sensitive. Filter function is case. That's a test question. David says, I can create a script if the length is 10. Yeah, so yeah, that shows you what script steps are compatible with different platforms. It doesn't tell you what functions or script triggers are compatible with different platforms, right? So that's so when we're talking about script triggers, the script triggers are not, in case anyone's wondering, are not listed over here, right? Nowhere in here will you find script triggers listed in here. Script triggers are a function, okay? Actually, it's a really interesting function, but they're not even really functions. The get trigger keystroke is a function. The script triggers themselves are their own little entity. I don't even know where so there's nowhere where you could just specify that, which would be nice. That'd be great if it would, they do that. Yeah, that's correct. So once again, the question that we had before that I saw was, how do I know which of these script triggers work on which platforms and this kind of thing? And you're going to have to read the documentation to do that. Generally, they all work on all the platforms. Generally, there are some exceptions. AV, anything that has to do with AV is iOS. Anything to do with gesture is going to be iOS, right? Because I don't know if you can trigger a gesture keystroke on the Mac with the pad. Maybe. You'd have to play with that, right? Splooge, not splooge. Spliff flight. I don't know what spliff flight is. I'm not a very smart person, so you need really basic things from me, okay? Keep it simple, folks. Okay, so the keystrokes, right? So questions about execution of the keystrokes. So you saw how that worked. You could, so let's just go through so we beat the object one to death a little bit. Let's talk about some of the other keystrokes. Let me zoom out a little bit here. So object modify, object validate, object save is kind of the interesting, we could talk about this, but basically this is the idea of trying to commit it and save it. And this is the one time ever where you see the difference between commit and save is with this script trigger. It's a really interesting script trigger. A really interesting script trigger. Yeah. Because it does split the difference between a save and a commit. Because really, you're starting to save it, and so the FileMaker local client has kind of saved it, but it hasn't really committed it. And so it forces you to learn the difference between save and commit. It's the only time I know where it comes up. And for most people, really, this is kind of a pre-trigger, because you can abort with it's a post trigger that acts like a pre-trigger. You can abort the commit with this. It's really mislabeled and not well explained. But yeah, it's a pre-trigger that allows you to abort on the save. Okay, object exit. Panel switch has to do when you're flipping tab panels, control panels, right? Things like that. AV change is iOS on record load, right? Very simple. That one's kind of interesting. On record commit, saving the record, right? Yeah, object save versus record commit, really. So yeah, interesting, eh? Layout enter. Yeah, Gadidi asking a question. Good. Chip, Ace Estimate, Michael Gravel, questions. You're good here? Okay, well, that's really useless, Ken. I need more questions, right? Yeah, so, I mean, so there are mode enter, like if you're going to go from browse mode to layout mode, you could check that. The one interesting thing is that if you entered like find mode and you're on a layout, Nick used to do this a lot. I don't know if he still does it, but he would actually have different layout for find mode to help people. So you would do a mode change. Oh, you're in find mode and you're on this layout? Go to this other layout and do the find there instead, right? View change. I can't tell you I've ever used view change. This is like if you go up under FileMaker and you're selecting from list view to form view on the layout mode, right? So if you're over here in browse mode and you would flip one of these mode changes right here, that's where, you know, it'd be a list view versus form view versus a table view. That's that one. Gesture tap, iOS, big time. External command receive. Once again, this is an iOS function for the most part. On window first open, you're a government employee and you don't care about no, then that's fine. But I'm for. Yeah, so the validation script was, you're asking me if I have a use case. You folks are the ones that should have the use case, right? I mean, we had this situation over here. We had the phone number field. We didn't want to process in a dash into it, right? Is the case. It could be other letters like that, right? You could write it another way. You could write the script so that phone number validation, you could say not equal. Not equal. Oh, I just screwed that up. If I say it's not there, where's the not equal? I have to go find the not equal. Now I'm having a moment here. Let me zoom in here. Actually, I just calculate that way. That's my problem. So if it's not equal, it's the option and equal sign. There we go. I don't know if you folks can see that. If it's not equal to, yeah, you could do it with a filter function would be the other way of doing it. You could say filter itself. So you could set it on object keystroke. What you do is you just, the other way of doing it, yeah, you could, like, I could comment all this out, right? And I'm just thinking about the best way of handling it. I think this is actually another test question on the FileMaker certification. The reason I'm slowing down about this is because I'm thinking about the test question they asked on the test. And what you could do is you could set, the problem is, you might want to do it on exit, but you want to just intercept anything that's not a 0 through 9, right? So what you want to do is pass a 0 through 9 through it. So if the keystroke is and you probably want to do this with a case function, but the most simplest way would be if it's a 1, it's okay, right? Or you could say, I mean, the really junior detective way of writing this, you could say it like this, right? I mean, this is the one way you could write that, right? So you could say The problem is you might be able to do greater than or greater than, but what I'm being very explicit here in this case. Very, if you're a basic FileMaker developer, this would make the most sense for you, right? I paste that. So if it's any of these things, it's okay, right? Would be the one way I would think about doing it. Keep it very simple. I'm going to reactivate these scripts. I was thinking about using the filter, but the filter, yeah, it's getting pretty elaborate, and I'm trying not to overdo it here with confusing people. And so if it's one of these items, it's a pass, right? Else it would be a 0. So we save that, close it, close it, close it, close it, zoom out a little bit. So if I'm in the phone number field, if I type A, B, C, I'm typing really loudly, nothing happens. 1, 2, 5, 7, 1. So there's your filter right there. Just to kind of intercept it. Like if I'm in the middle right here, right? Notice I'm in the middle and I type something, it doesn't mess it up, but I can continue on. What you could do, and this is from Spliff Fright, the idea would be to, if you go to Script Workspace, you could do a situation where you could do object validation. I would say, I'm just going to put keystroke, keystroke, and I would save it. I'll duplicate it. I'll cut on object validation, let's say on validate. And what we would do is you could just say, get rid of all this. I would say set the field of, what's the field called, right? It's called the phone field. You could set it equal to the filter, right? Filter, right? And the text to filter would be the phone field. And then what you do is you put in here the value. It's not the values you're trying to filter out. Filter is filtering in. So really in the real world, to think about this, filter in, not out, right? So you want to filter in. So you want to filter in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, right? Same thing. And then it will remove everything else. Keep in mind that if you put an A in here, there's a little a there. I don't know if you folks can see that. A little a there is different than that a because it's case sensitive. This filter function, and about 3 of the functions in FileMaker are very case sensitive. This is one of them. I think substitute's also case sensitive, I believe. And so you can do it like that. You could say, okay. So what you would do is, but I want to do a different. I'm going to do the complicated phone. What I'll do. Okay. Save. Set field complicated phone. So it's great. We got that. Come back over here. Go to layout mode. On the complicated phone, I'm going to say script triggers. I'm going to turn off the object modify on object validate right here. I'm going to say on that right there. Okay. So then if you're in here, if this works, you could type in whatever you want. And when you click out, it strips out. Oh, hang on. The script was wrong. It's almost there. I never rewired it to the other. There we go. Sorry about that. There we go. Sorry, my bad. So when it gets a Windows machine, it works the same as a Mac as it does in Windows. Okay. I'm a big believer in that. Okay, questions. Dennis Chow, how about get as number? Yeah, you could do that too. Once again, though, you might want to allow certain things in that are not numbers, Dennis. Once again, you'd have to look at what get as number would allow you in and out and do it that way. I'm just telling you that this kind of phone with the filter on here is on the certification test, almost a very similar sort of scenario to what we're doing right here. So, but understanding that it is case sensitive is part of the test question. So I think it is. If you look at substitutes, another one that we use a lot of, I believe. So if you go into FileMaker Help, you come over here and you say substitute, T-U-T. Oop, did I just do that right? Substitute. Is it case sensitive? Yeah, it is case sensitive. Yeah, because over here they're playing with it, and they're substituting a little a for big A and big B and B. So yeah, it is definitely case sensitive. Case sensitive right there. So it's case sensitive. The filters, you just do all the training, right? I'm impressed. I'm blown away. Well, let's just bring, how do I get it over here? Oh, I can get it over here like this. Hang on. So for those of you who want to see what this is the power of this group of people, right? So TK goes, well, if Richard's not going to give us the information, I'm going to do it for him. So do you have it like in a, did you do this in FileMaker? Can you like zoom it in and give me like the biggest resolution possible? I will credit you on that, but this is really good. So according to this, these are where they're supported and where they're not. On object keystroke, little sensitive, right? And then P means that that TK will come and help you for free if you get stuck on this, right? He's volunteering his time to help everyone with this. I'm not sure what P means. Partial. Partial is supported. Yes, cool, very cool. So yeah, so then once again, on external command is an iOS thing, AV player change, iOS thing, gesture tap, pro. Hey, McRae, awesome. That's a very cool. That's almost like a call sign. I love that. This is J.A. McRae coming into land over. Ace Estimate, Michael, everyone, thank you, thank you, thank you. Tomorrow we'll catch you at the same time, same place. And in the meantime, stay out of trouble. If you have questions, comments, send an email to support@rcconsulting.com. We will get that. It will get triaged by the team. All right. And Andre, if you have any questions or thoughts, I'll hang out here for a little bit on Discord. For the rest of you, appreciate it. See ya.
Just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Try to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shot to snap.